Hello, my name is Victor. This video covers the last part of the lessons 23 and 24 of the Master Key System. I have included a link in the description that you can use to download it for free if you're interested in reading it. This part tells of the money consciousness and the power which sets the current in motion, which produces the attractive force which opens the doors to the arteries of commerce. It tells how the current is stopped or completely reversed and turned away from us. It tells how money is woven into the outer fabric of our existence. Why it engages the best thought of the best minds. How we make money. How to recognize opportunity. How to make a money magnet of yourself. How to get the necessary insight to perceive and utilize opportunities. How to recognize values. It tells how to convert an idea into an income, how to make a direct connection with the universal mind, how to secure practical results. In fact, it's tell what the only really practical thing is. Introduction. In this part you will find that money weaves itself into the entire fabric of our very existence, that the law of success is service, that we get what we give, and for this reason we should consider it a great privilege to be able to give. We have found that thought is the creative activity behind every constructive enterprise. We can therefore give nothing of more practical value than our thought. Creative thought requires attention, and the power of attention is, as we have found, the weapon of the Superman. Attention develops concentration, and concentration develops spiritual power, and spiritual power is the mightiest force in existence. This is the science which embraces all sciences. It is the art which, above all arts, is relevant to human life. In the mastery of this science and this art there is opportunity for unending progression. Perfection in this is not acquired in 6 days, or in 6 weeks, or in 6 months. It is the labor of a life. Not to go forward is to go backward. It is inevitable that the entertainment of positive, constructive and unselfish thoughts should have a far-reaching effect for good. Compensation is the keynote of the universe. Nature is constantly seeking to strike an equilibrium. Where something is sent out, something must be received, lest there should be a vacuum formed. By observance of this rule you cannot fail to profit in such measure as amply to justify your effort along this line. Part 23. The money consciousness is an attitude of mind. It is the open door to the arteries of commerce. It is the receptive attitude. Desire is the attractive force which sets the current in motion, and fear is the great obstacle by which the current is stopped or completely reversed, turned away from us. Fear is just the opposite from money consciousness. It is poverty consciousness, and as the law is unchangeable we get exactly what we give. If we fear we get what we feared. Money weaves itself into the entire fabric of our very existence. It engages the best thought of the best minds. We make money by making friends, and we enlarge our circle of friends by making money for them, by helping them, by being of service to them. The first law of success then is service, and this in turn is built on integrity and justice. The man who at least is not fair in his intention is simply ignorant. He has missed the fundamental law of all exchange. He is impossible. He will lose surely and certainly. He may not know it. He may think he is winning, but he is doomed to certain defeat. He cannot cheat the infinite. The law of compensation will demand of him an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. The forces of life are volatile. They are composed of our thoughts and ideals, and these in turn are molded into form. Our problem is to keep an open mind, to constantly reach out for the new, to recognize opportunity, to be interested in the race rather than the goal, for the pleasure is in the pursuit rather than the possession. You can make a money magnet of yourself, but to do so you must first consider how you can make money for other people. If you have the necessary insight to perceive and utilize opportunities and propitious conditions and recognize values, you can put yourself in position to take advantage of them, but your greatest success will come as you are enabled to assist others. What benefits one must benefit all. A generous thought is filled with strength and vitality. A selfish thought contains the germs of dissolution. It will disintegrate and pass away. Great financiers like Morgan, Rothschild and others are simply channels for the distribution of wealth. Enormous amounts come and go, but it would be as dangerous to stop the outgo as the income. Both ends must remain open, and so our greatest success will come as we recognize that it is just as essential to give as to get. If we recognize the omnipotent power that is the source of all supply, we will adjust our consciousness to this supply in such a way that it will constantly attract all that is necessary to itself, and we shall find that the more we give the more we get. Giving in this sense implies service. The banker gives his money, the merchant his goods, the author gives his thought, the workman gives his skill. All have something to give, but the more they can give, the more they get, and the more they get the more they are enabled to give. The financier gets much because he gives much. He thinks. He is seldom a man that lets anyone else do his thinking for him. He wants to know how results are to be secured. You must show him. When you can do this, he will furnish the means by which hundreds near thousands may profit, and in proportion as they are successful will he be successful. Morgan, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Rothschild and others did not get rich because they lost money for other people. On the contrary, it is because they made money for other people that they became the wealthiest men in the wealthiest countries on the globe. The average person is entirely innocent of any deep thinking. He accepts the ideas of others, and repeats them, in very much the same way as a parrot. This is readily seen when we understand the method which is used to form public opinion, and this docile attitude on the part of a large majority who seem perfectly willing to let a few persons do all their thinking for them is what enables a few men in a great many countries to usurp all the avenues of power and hold the millions in subjection. Creative thinking requires attention. The power of attention is called concentration. This power is directed by the will. For this reason we must refuse to concentrate or think of anything except the things we desire. Many are constantly concentrating upon sorrow, loss and discord of every kind. As thought is creative, it necessarily follows that this concentration inevitably leads to more loss, more sorrow and more discord. How could it be otherwise? On the other hand, when we meet with success, gain, or any other desirable condition, we naturally concentrate upon the effects of these things and thereby create more, and so it follows that much leads to more. How an understanding of this principle can be utilized in the business world is well told by Mr. Atkinson in Advanced Thought. He says, "Spirit, whatever else it may or may not be, must be considered as the essence of consciousness, the substance of mind, the reality underlying thought. And as all ideas are phases of the activity of consciousness, mind or thought, it follows that in spirit, and in it alone, is to be found the ultimate fact, the real thing, or idea." This being admitted, does it not seem reasonable to hold that a true understanding of spirit, and its laws of manifestation, would be about the most practical thing that a practical person can hope to find? Does it not seem certain that if the practical men of the world could but realize this fact, they would fall all over themselves in getting to the place in which they might obtain such knowledge of spiritual things and laws? These men are not fools, they need only to grasp this fundamental fact in order to move in the direction of that which is the essence of all achievement. Let me give you a concrete example. I know a man whom I had always considered to be quite materialistic. He had made several successes in life, and also several failures. The last time I had a talk with him he was practically down and out, as compared with his former business condition. It looked as if he had indeed reached the end of his rope, for he was well advanced into the stage of middle age and new ideas came more slowly, and less frequently to him than in former years. He said to me, in substance, "I know that all things that work out in business are the result of thought, any fool knows that. Just now, I seem to be short of thoughts and good ideas. But if this all-mind teaching is correct, there should be possible to the individual the attainment of direct connection with infinite mind, and in infinite mind there must be the possibility of all kinds of good ideas which a man of my courage and experience could put to practical use in the business world, and make a big success of. It looks good to me, and I am going to look into it." This was about 2 years ago. The other day I heard of this man again. Talking to a friend, I said, "What has become of our old friend X? Has he ever got on his feet again?" The friend looked at me in amazement. "Why," said he, "don't you know about X's great success? He is the big man in the Dash company." He named a concern which has made a phenomenal success during the last 18 months and is now well known, by reason of its advertisements, from one end of the country to another, and also abroad. He is the man who supplied the big idea for that concern. Why, he is about $500,000 to the good and is moving rapidly toward the million mark, all in the space of 18 months. I had not connected this man with the enterprise mentioned, although I knew of the wonderful success of the company in question. Investigation has shown that the story is true, and that the above stated facts are not exaggerated in the slightest. Now, what do you think of that? To me, it means that this man actually made the direct connection with infinite mind spirit, and, having found it, he set it to work for him. He used it in his business. Does this sound sacrilegious or blasphemous? I hope not, I do not mean it to be so. Take away the implication of personality, or magnified human nature, from the conception of the infinite, and you have left the conception of an infinite presence power, the quintessence of which is consciousness, in fact, at the last, spirit. As this man, also at the last, must be considered as a manifestation of spirit, there is nothing sacrilegious in the idea that he, being spirit, should so harmonize himself with his origin and source that he would be able to manifest at least a minor degree of its power. All of us do this, more or less, when we use our minds in the direction of creative thought. This man did more, he went about it in an intensely practical manner. I have not consulted him about his method of procedure, though I intend doing so at the first opportunity, But, he not only drew upon the infinite supply for the ideas which he needed, and which formed the seed of his success, but he also used the creative power of thought in building up for himself an idealistic pattern of that which he hoped to manifest in material form, adding thereto, changing, improving its detail, from time to time, proceeding from the general outline to the finished detail. I judge this to be the facts of the case, not alone from my recollection of the conversation 2 years ago, but also because I have found the same thing to be true in the cases of other prominent men who have made similar manifestation of creative thought. Those who may shrink from this idea of employing the infinite power to aid a man in his work in the material world, should remember that if the infinite objected in the least to such a procedure, the thing could never happen. The infinite is quite able to take care of itself. Spirituality is quite practical, very practical, intensely practical. It teaches that spirit is the real thing, the whole thing, and that matter is but plastic stuff, which spirit is able to create, mold, manipulate, and fashion to its will. Spirituality is the most practical thing in the world, the only really and absolutely practical thing that there is. Now concentrate on the fact that man is not a body with a spirit, but a spirit with a body, and that it is for this reason that his desires are incapable of any permanent satisfaction in anything not spiritual. Money is therefore of no value except to bring about the conditions which we desire, and these conditions are necessarily harmonious. Harmonious conditions necessitate sufficient supply, so that if there appears to be any lack, we should realize that the idea or soul of money is service, and as this thought takes form, channels of supply will be opened, and you will have the satisfaction of knowing that spiritual methods are entirely practical. Part 23 Questions. What is the first law of success? Service. How may we be of the most service? By having an open mind. By being interested in the race rather than the goal, in the pursuit rather than possession. What is the result of a selfish thought? It contains the germs of dissolution. How will our greatest success be achieved? By a recognition of the fact that it is just as essential to give as to receive. Why do great organizers meet with great success? Because they do their own thinking. Why do the great majority in every country remain the docile and apparently willing tools of the few? Because they let the few do all their thinking for them. What is the effect of concentrating upon sorrow and loss? More sorrow and more loss. What is the effect of concentrating upon gain? More gain. Is this principle used in the business world? It is the only principle which is ever used, or ever could be used. There is no other principle. The fact that it may be used unconsciously does not alter or change the situation. What is the practical result of this principle? Success, which is an effect, not a cause. If we wish to secure any effect, we must ascertain the cause, or idea or thought by which the effect is created. We have discovered that premeditated, orderly thinking for a purpose matures that purpose into fixed form, so that we may be absolutely sure of the result of our dynamic experiment. Francis Larimer Warner. This part explains the entire theory and practice of every system of metaphysics. It tells how to express harmony, how to express health, how to express abundance. It explains the nature of all conditions, and how they may be changed or removed. It explains how every difficulty, no matter what it is or where it is, can be removed or dissolved, and it explains the only way in which this is ever done or can be done. It also tells of a master key by which those who are wise enough to understand, broad enough to weigh the evidence, firm enough to follow their own judgment, and strong enough to make the sacrifice exacted, may enter and partake. Introduction. This is the final part. If you have practiced each of the exercises a few minutes every day, as suggested, you will have found that you can get out of life exactly what you wish by first putting into life that which you wish, and you will probably agree with the adept who said, the master key thought is almost overwhelming. It is so vast, so available, so definite, so reasonable and so usable. The fruit of this knowledge is, as it were, a gift of the gods. It is the truth that makes men free, not only free from every lack and limitation, but free from sorrow, worry and care. Is it not wonderful to realize that omnipotent law is no respecter of persons, that it makes no difference what your past habit of thought may have been, the way has been prepared. If you are inclined to be religious, the greatest religious teacher the world has ever known made the way so plain that all may follow. If your mental bias is toward physical science, the law will operate with mathematical certainty. If you are inclined to be philosophical, Plato or Emerson may be your teacher, but, in each case, you may, by the master key, means reach degrees of power to which it is impossible to assign any limit. An understanding of the master key, I believe, is the secret for which the ancient alchemists vainly sought, because it explains how gold in the mind may be transmuted into gold in the heart and in the hand. Part 24. When the scientists first put the sun in the center of the solar system and sent the Earth spinning around it, there was immense surprise and consternation. The whole idea was self-evidently false. Nothing was more certain than the movement of the sun across the sky, and anyone could see it descend behind the western hills and sink into the sea. Scholars raged and scientists rejected the idea as absurd, yet the evidence has finally carried conviction in the minds of all. We speak of a bell as a sounding body, yet we knew that all the bell can do is to produce vibrations in the air. When these vibrations come at the rate of 16 a second, they cause a sound to be heard in the mind. It is possible for the mind to hear vibrations at the rate of 38,000 a second. When the number increases beyond this, all is silence again, so that we know that the sound is not in the bell, it is in our own mind. We speak and even think of the sun as giving light. Yet we know it is simply giving forth energy which produces vibrations in the ether at the rate of 400 trillion a second, causing what are termed light waves, so that we know that what we call light is simply a form of energy and that the only light there is the sensation caused in the mind by the motion of the waves. When the number increases, the light changes in color, each change in color being caused by shorter and more rapid vibrations, so that although we speak of the rose as being red, the grass as being green, or the sky as being blue, we know that the colors exist only in our minds, and are the sensations experienced by us as the result of the vibrations of light waves. When the vibrations are reduced below 400 trillion a second, they no longer affect us as light, but we experience the sensation of heat. It is evident, therefore, that we cannot depend upon the evidence of the senses for our information concerning the realities of things. If we did, we should believe that the sun moved, that the world was flat instead of round, that the stars were bits of light instead of vast suns. The whole range then of the theory and practice of any system of metaphysics consists in knowing the truth concerning yourself and the world in which you live, in knowing that in order to express harmony, you must think harmony, in order to express health you must think health, and in order to express abundance you must think abundance. To do this you must reverse the evidence of the senses. When you come to know that every form of disease, sickness, lack and limitation are simply the result of wrong thinking, you will have come to know the truth which shall make you free. You will see how mountains may be removed. If these mountains consist only of doubt, fear, distrust or other forms of discouragement, they are nonetheless real, and they need not only to be removed but to be cast into the sea. Your real work consists in convincing yourself of the truth of these statements. When you have succeeded in doing this, you will have no difficulty in thinking the truth, and as has been shown, the truth contains a vital principle and will manifest itself. Those who heal diseases by mental methods have come to know this truth. They demonstrate it in their lives and the lives of others daily. They know that life, health and abundance are omnipresent, filling all space, and they know that those who allow disease or lack of any kind to manifest, have as yet not come into an understanding of this great law. As all conditions are thought creations and therefore entirely mental, disease and lack are simply mental conditions in which the person fails to perceive the truth. As soon as the error is removed, the condition is removed. The method for removing this error is to go into the silence and know the truth. As all mind is one mind, you can do this for yourself or anyone else. If you have learned to form mental images of the conditions desired, this will be the easiest and quickest way to secure results. If not, results can be accomplished by argument, by the process of convincing yourself absolutely of the truth of your statement. Remember, and this is one of the most difficult as well as most wonderful statements to grasp. Remember that no matter what the difficulty is, no matter where it is, no matter who is affected, you have no patient but yourself. You have nothing to do but to convince yourself of the truth which you desire to see manifested. This is an exact scientific statement in accordance with every system of metaphysics in existence, and no permanent results are ever secured in any other way. Every form of concentration, forming mental images, argument, and autosuggestion are all simply methods by which you are enabled to realize the truth. If you desire to help someone, to destroy some form of lack, limitation or error, the correct method is not to think of the person whom you wish to help. The intention to help them is entirely sufficient, as this puts you in mental touch with the person. Then drive out of your own mind any belief of lack, limitation, disease, danger, difficulty, or whatever the trouble might be. As soon as you have succeeded in doing this, the result will have been accomplished, and the person will be free. But remember that thought is creative, and consequently every time you allow your thought to rest on any inharmonious condition, you must realize that such conditions are apparent only, they have no reality, that spirit is the only reality and it can never be less than perfect. All thought is a form of energy, a rate of vibration, but a thought of the truth is the highest rate of vibration known and consequently destroys every form of error in exactly the same way that light destroys darkness. No form of error can exist when the truth appears, so that your entire mental work consists in coming into an understanding of the truth. This will enable you to overcome every form of lack, limitation or disease of any kind. We can get no understanding of the truth from the world without. The world without is relative only, truth is absolute. We must therefore find it in the world within. To train the mind to see truth only is to express true conditions only. Our ability to do this will be an indication of the progress we are making. The absolute truth is that the I is perfect and complete, the real I is spiritual and can therefore never be less than perfect, it can never have any lack, limitation, or disease. The flash of genius does not have origin in the molecular motion of the brain, it is inspired by the ego, the spiritual I which is one with the universal mind, and it is our ability to recognize this unity which is the cause of all inspiration, all genius. These results are far-reaching and have effect upon generations yet to come. They are the pillars of fire which mark the path that millions follow. Truth is not the result of logical training or of experimentation, or even of observation. It is the product of a developed consciousness. Truth within a Caesar manifests in a Caesar's deportment, in his life and his action, his influence upon social forms and progress. Your life and your actions and your influence in the world will depend upon the degree of truth which you are enabled to perceive, for truth will not manifest in creeds, but in conduct. Truth manifests in character, and the character of a man should be the interpretation of his religion, or what to him is truth, and this will in turn be evidenced in the character of his possessions. If a man complains of the drift of his fortune, he is just as unjust to himself as if he should deny rational truth, though it stand patent and irrefutable. Our environment and the innumerable circumstances and accidents of our lives already exist in the subconscious personality which attracts to itself the mental and physical material which is congenial to its nature. Thus is our future being determined from our present, and if there should be apparent injustice in any feature or phase of our personal life, we must look within for the cause, try to discover the mental fact which is responsible for the outward manifestation. It is this truth which makes you free, and it is the conscious knowledge of this truth which will enable you to overcome every difficulty. The conditions with which you meet in the world without are invariably the result of the conditions obtaining in the world within. Therefore it follows with scientific accuracy that by holding the perfect ideal in mind you can bring about ideal conditions in your environment. If you see only the incomplete, the imperfect, the relative, the limited, these conditions will manifest in your life. But if you train your mind to see and realize the spiritual ego, the I which is forever perfect and complete, harmonious, wholesome and healthful conditions only will be manifested. As thought is creative, and the truth is the highest and most perfect thought which anyone can think, it is self-evident that to think the truth is to create that which is true, and it is again evident that when truth comes into being, that which is false must cease to be. The universal mind is the totality of all mind which is in existence. Spirit is mind, because spirit is intelligent. The words are, therefore, synonymous. The difficulty with which you have to contend is to realize that mind is not individual. It is omnipresent. It exists everywhere. In other words, there is no place where it is not. It is, therefore, universal. Men have, heretofore, generally used the word God to indicate this universal, creative principle, but the word God does not convey the right meaning. Most people understand this word to mean something outside of themselves, while exactly the contrary is the fact. It is our very life. Without it we would be dead. We would cease to exist. The minute the spirit leaves the body, we are as nothing. Therefore, spirit is really all there is of us. Now the only activity which the spirit possesses is the power to think. Therefore, thought must be creative, because spirit is creative. This creative power is impersonal, and your ability to think is your ability to control it and make use of it for the benefit of yourself and others. When the truth of this statement is realized, understood, and appreciated, you will have come into possession of the master key. But remember that only those who are wise enough to understand, broad enough to weigh the evidence, firm enough to follow their own judgment, and strong enough to make the sacrifice exacted, may enter and partake. Now, try to realize that this is truly a wonderful world in which we live, that you are a wonderful being, that many are awakening to a knowledge of the truth, and as fast as they awake and come into a knowledge of the things which have been prepared for them, they, too, realize that for them previously eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath it entered into the heart of man, the splendor which exists for those who find themselves in the promised land. They have crossed the river of judgment and have arrived at the point of discrimination between the true and the false, and have found that all they ever willed or dreamed was but a faint concept of the dazzling reality. Though an inheritance of acres may be bequeathed, an inheritance of knowledge and wisdom cannot. The wealthy man may pay others for doing his work for him, but it is impossible to get his thinking done for him by another, or to purchase any kind of self-culture. Smiles. Part 24 Questions. Upon what principle does the theory and practice of every system of metaphysics in existence depend? Upon a knowledge of the truth concerning yourself and the world in which you live. What is the truth concerning yourself? The real I or ego is spiritual and can therefore never be less than perfect. What is the method of destroying any form of error? To absolutely convince yourself of the truth concerning the condition which you wish to see manifested. Can we do this for others? The universal mind in which we live and move and have our being is one and indivisible. It is therefore just as possible to help others as to help ourselves. What is the universal mind? The totality of all mind in existence. Where is the universal mind? The universal mind is omnipresent, it exists everywhere. There is no place where it is not. It is therefore within us. It is the world within. It is our spirit, our life. What is the nature of the universal mind? It is spiritual and consequently creative. It seeks to express itself in form. How may we act on the universal mind? Our ability to think is our ability to act on the universal mind and bring it into manifestation for the benefit of ourselves or others. What is meant by thinking? Clear, decisive, calm, deliberate, sustained thought with a definite end in view. What will be the result? You will also be able to say, "It is not I that doeth the works, but the Father that dwelleth within me, he doeth the works." You will come to know that the Father is the universal mind and that he does really and truly dwell within you. In other words, you will come to know that the wonderful promises made in the Bible are fact, not fiction, and can be demonstrated by anyone having sufficient understanding.